right, so the future of books. Having watched the iPad introduction and the existence of the Kindle already, I was thinking about anybody buys a book. It's a normal thing. People love to buy books, right? So you go to Borders, and say if you work at a Borders, or if you run a Borders, you know that when a book comes out, you get several boxes of copies of the book, right? Imagine with Harry Potter or any book that comes out, they get a bunch of boxes and boxes of books, and there's no guarantee that they're going to sell all those books, but they hope they do. So it occurs to me that if somebody wants to buy a book that's coming out, they should be able to go to the store and buy that book in print, because I don't see that the book in print should ever go away. It's a terribly important thing to have printed material, and it can never go away. But we can be more efficient in the way we print them and not waste resources. So here's the new way we should do this. Instead of a factory printing 10,000 copies of whatever newest book comes out, Stephen King's new novel, what they do is when he writes a book, he gets an original copy in print. The official original copy of the book. This is the one original that's specially made for him. He has it, so it exists for posterity, for historical purposes. And then anybody who wants to go and buy the new book, like say it's just the newest book comes out by Stephen King, you go down to the Borders or Barnes & Noble, and instead of picking up your copy of it off the shelf, you say, I want one copy of that, please, and then they make it for you in-house, like a printed, like a perfect edition. And they would have the specs from the factory, they'd have the machine there necessary to print you out a copy and have it bound and made perfect for you, right away, and it would cost, probably as much as it does now. And so you could make your own copy of the book there, and it would be a perfect printed copy, because people don't want to be without printed books. And so I think that's probably a better way to do it. So that way you don't end up with 9,000 extra copies of a book that just didn't sell well, and then it's sitting in some warehouse somewhere, and then it goes to some secondary bookstore, and then it's sold for $2. And then, eventually it sits on some used bookshelf in some obscure Goodwill store. Really, this is just some book that's wasting somebody's time, because I think it's a good thing. Nobody wants to destroy a book. Nobody wants to throw away a book, no matter what book it is, because I think everybody understands now that you just don't do that. It's part of our culture to not ever destroy a book. So nobody ever wants to throw one away. Every time you do throw a book away, you feel kind of guilty about it, I'm sure, right? So this is the better way to do it. When someone writes a book, they get their original copy of it, and then it's marketed, however a book is marketed, and then they put it out there, and then you go down to Borders and you order the copy, and you could pre-order it, and so they could have several of them printed early, and so they wouldn't have to stock anything necessarily. They would just be a dealer, a dealer that has this print shop and this copy shop that makes a nice copy of the book itself with a nice made cover and whatever the book would be, a dust jacket, you get it all right there made for you. But you don't need to have it pre-made for the potential customers. There's no sense in doing that. They should print it to order. The store just needs to have probably a very large printing machine and some kind of bookmaking machine that would be there, able to make 3 or 4 books at any one time within a couple of minutes each. So nobody would ever have to stand in line for very long. They could make it really quick, and it would be perfectly bound and with a cover, and you give somebody your card, and there you go. You got a copy of the book. Or same thing. We wouldn't even have to order it. That's the beauty of this new ebook format. You can buy a book on as a computer file for your iPod or whatever, and read the book, or not. You can go and get the printed book. But now you could do that either way. And you could have a book, and maybe you could have the ebook forever, and you really like it, and so instead, rather than keep the file forever, you can just take that book down to Borders and have it made from the stored copy in the system. So you would never have to, something would never really have to be out of print. It would be just any time by the ISBN number, the International Standard Book Number, you would be able to pull it up and get any book anytime. You could get any original copy. Like if this idea had been thought of when the first printing press was invented by Gutenberg in Germany, a little trivia for you: a Gutenberg Bible, first book ever printed. If it was first originally thought up where somebody could have their own printing press, and if they had thought of making bookstores at the same time, if society worked that way at the time, where the first bookstore opened up with its own printing press in the back of the room, and everything in print was just sort of given an original copy to the printer, and then they would just make a copy for anybody who came in and wanted to buy a copy, instead of them having to print several hundred copies or 1,000 copies and put them in random stores and try and sell them to people. People would already know about the book through some media, like some advertising campaign, and then you go down to the store and you order your copy. Why don't they do it this way? It seems like a perfectly reasonable and easy way to do it. And Borders and Barnes and I don't see how that would really even hurt their business in any way. They would just sort of have to change the way they do it. And so this seems kind of like, I guess, a very green way of doing it. We wouldn't be wasting all that paper and ink and whatever the hell they need to make a book and mass produce a novel or anything in print. In magazines. Fuck, magazines do that. Obviously, And magazines, that's the obvious way to do this. If you want a printed magazine, you go down to the magazine store and they print you out a copy in 5 seconds in color on this glossy paper for $4. And then there you go. You've got your copy of a magazine. Screw subscriptions, screw them making 9,000 copies or 500,000 copies or whatever it is of like People magazine. Shit. They're wasting paper. They're wasting everybody's natural resources. Oh God, I don't want to be part of the green movement, dude. It's like a religion, But I hate it because they have such fucking good points, It's like so obvious. Like if we have too many people on this planet, we're going to use up all of the resources. Obviously, that's like a perfectly clear thing to see. Whether we're destroying the ozone layer or not, or the environment, we're going to eventually just run out of space on the planet, or we're going to take up so much space where we'll just end up using up all the paper. Or all the wood products, all the trees that they use to make paper products, and all the whatever they use to make the glue and all that binds the paper, and all the ink and just all the chemicals that are used to make the ink. All this stuff is just going to waste all the time, just sitting on people's Goodwill store shelves. And when you go to some random store and they have a few books over in the corner that nobody ever looks at, it's all just wasted. It's just wasted material. And dude, it's just so obvious. How hard is it to fix this? This is the future of the book industry right here. What I've just talked about. It's just an idea. There might be one major flaw in it. Like there must be some reason why book printing companies have to print thousands of copies of the book and put them in all the retail stores just in case somebody has to, wants to buy a copy of it. They'll have all these copies there, but inevitably a book will either sell out, and then there will be people walking in all pissed off because they can't get a copy, or walking out pissed off. Or they'll be coming there and they'll buy a copy or two, but then they'll have 18 copies that they sit in the back shelf that they never sell, which they wouldn't have to worry about that or they'll have to send back to the factory, and then they put it in a warehouse, like I said before, and then they end up in some used bookstore. Or some secondhand bookstore, or the cheap bookstore where they sell the nice looking hardcover books that people buy, but they don't read, or they do read and then they're disappointed because they were shitty books in the first place, which is why they got to that store in the first place. So really, the future of the book industry is that. That's the idea. I probably sound arrogant just saying, oh yeah, that's the future. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but it's just an idea. Borders, Barnes & Noble, B. Dalton, Walden Books, if they're still around, all the different bookstores should get together with the publishers, the publishing houses, and just basically build a new way of doing books. That's all they have to do. Forget printing them in advance and selling them retail. Just have a stand or a small place where you can just go and order your copy, like you can go to the counter at Burger King and order a chicken sandwich. Give me a copy of Thomas Paine's Rights of Man in a red leather-bound edition. Why not, right? So there you go. That's my idea. Thanks.